Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. I'm your host, Michael Andre Ford in San Antonio, Texas, an American Angel Intuitive. But we have a really fantabulous guest in South Carolina who is just ginormous for humanity. She's set herself up for an amazing path ahead, but she's already been at it 15 years recording folks, having guests on her show. That's 1111 Talk Radio. She's got 1111 Magazine. She's got two books out, coming out right now, Signs, and also Seven, or Knowing the Seven Human Expressions of Grace. Those are not her only books. You can see them behind her on the stand. It'll be in the information below the video. I'd like to welcome Simran Singh, healer, author, show host, mom, and much more, and very a good positive influence for us all. Simran, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's so good to be here with you. You are such a light in what you're doing to bring joy and belief and expansion, possibility, and getting people out of their heads and into their hearts is extraordinary. So I want to compliment you and commend you on the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, Simran. And we, just so the audience know, we met last year in just one of those like virtual tea setups, and we had fun. You've met angels on your own. You've done lots of healing work for yourself, for others. I would have to say one quick thing that I got before the show. All of our life paths can have ebbs and flows, and we're never really too excited about the ebbs. It could be, physical, it could be emotional, it could be family, it can be business. You lost your business, bankruptcy, stuff happens, and it's really hard to find a net positive aspect to this. But I kind of, again, got before the show, we'll call those mountains. And there's a lot of ways to look at this. The idea that a mountain can become a molehill is not very appetizing to the ego. We're kind of like, no, my drama is, my problem is. But if you think of it as a car journey and you're moving away from Mount Kilimanjaro, and it was ginormous when you were there, but when you're 50 miles back, it does shrink to a molehill. Or let's look at it differently. It's the foundation, a key waypoint on your human journey along your soul's expansion, so that you lay a giant foundation for what your future endeavors are. And I think that's what we can say fairly here. Simran Singh, she's experienced a lot. She's done a lot. She's not done doing a lot. And she's here to help us all with her books, her own shining light. And she will share what she wants to share in this show. There's no time limit, but I'd like to let Simran do her own introduction to her life story. And before we quite get to that, I am going to ask her some very simple, quick questions, and then see if we can coax a personal story out first to get all of our interest for the audience up and running. First, Simran, do angels exist?
I had never been one to encounter angels. I believed in them. I wanted to believe in them. I wanted them to be present. And they showed up as signs for me, but it was not until our conversation in December when you blew the sage smoke and you presented some pictures. You presented joy, and then you presented some pictures of some different individuals, and something happened. Something shifted in terms of my experience with angels, a more visceral experience. As I said, most of my experience has been through signs, symbols, and synchronicities, and that's just kind of how I've been guided through my life. I never really attributed it to angels. I just kind of attributed it more as a conversation with the universe. But now I realize that too could be described as angels continuously talking to us and guiding us. So thank you for your exuberance and your ability to really express that connection and illustrate it so viscerally through the sage smoke and through the excitement and the opening of the mind in doing so.
Well, you never know, since we can see angels in full-on human form. If you ask for it and allow for it, hint for the audience, ask for an angel to show up in a full-on human form before you hit that coffee shop next week. Give them a 3-week window to do this. But you can see them as balls of light, and you can see them in other shapes. And you never know when you might see a ball of light here, or by Simran, or an angel full-on standing somewhere in the shot, or a ball of light going through 2 screens or 3 screens if we count the audience member. Now, I don't know if we're quite there, but with this vibration today, I'm not going to exclude that as a possibility. So with that, let's have Simran, if you could you describe a little bit of how you got to where you are now and how you help others and how your own heart, you've cultivated a lot of amazingness there, and that's how you turn around and help others, and it shows through your shows, your books, and more. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you were talking about ebbs and flows of life, and I would have to say that mine have been the swamps, the valleys, and the highest mountain peaks. I didn't just do it in a part way. I seem to like really dip down and go high, but I think that's part of my Piscean nature and the desire to really discover what this world is really about, not just on the surface, but to uncover the depths of life and who we are and what that really means in terms of our creative capacity and our expression, both as human beings as well as divine beings. And what you brought forward about asking angels to appear, that's actually quite similar to how my own path came. I discovered that with the signs and symbols that began showing up, that they would show up even more if I would ask for them, if I would really request those things to come forth from the universe. And how that began was really in the depths of my darkness. It was in the depths of a lot of pain and despair and dysfunction. That is typically what puts us on a personal growth path because we want life to feel better and be better. And in that moment, I asked for a sign, not really even expecting one to show up, but asking for one nonetheless. And I think we all do that at some point in our lives. And when I did so, that's when the 11, the 111s, the 1111s, and a whole slew of other numbers and types of signs started coming into my life, teaching me about these conversations I was having with the universe, these sacred encounters that would turn into pathways and turning points and divine guideposts in my own life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Where would you like to start? And I'll buy you a little bit of time because you mentioned asking for signs, and we would love to get some more specific examples at any point during the show. But if you recall Eat, Pray, Love, there's a gorgeous scene at the beginning when she's still figuring out the whole divorce thing. She hasn't gone to Italy or India yet. And it's the Julia Roberts movie, if you don't know it. She's in a bathroom crying and talking one way. She's asking for help from the universe, angels, God, and a voice just says, "Go to bed, Elizabeth." And it's actually her guardian angel on her team, not God talking to her. But in the movie, it's hilarious because she's just like, why? And a very practical voice comes straight in and just says, "Go to bed, Elizabeth," in a way that you go, oh, why am I wasting all this energy sobbing in a bathroom? Very cute movie, very cute scene. You've had to go through this quite a bit. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to take us? And then take us to your books as well, how it got to that. But give us some flavor. How did this all begin?
Well, as I said, it began in a state of dysfunction. And we all have relationships that we're trying to navigate. And sometimes in those relationships, there's no way out or no way of understanding exactly what's going on. And I was always the type of person that thought if I could just fix me enough, then I'd be able to support the person outside of me. They would automatically change. And in a lot of spiritual and personal growth teachings, they'll teach you that if you will shift yourself, that the world outside of you will also shift. The people outside of you will also shift. Now, there's a caveat to that because when the people outside of you, that might mean they shift out of your life, or it might mean they shift in their own experience and you come together. And I was really holding on, not wanting to let go of the relationship, but kept trying to really push myself to be better and better and better, and got myself to a point of exhaustion and frustration. And so when I finally called out for that sign, in the following month, I had these encounters with 11 and 111 and also 1111 repeatedly each week. I mean, there were some times it would show up a dozen times a day, often 40, 50, 60 times a week. And it would show up on everything from license plates to billboards to bulldozers outside my home, my mail, the clocks, just everywhere I looked, I would see these numbers. And for a while, I thought, maybe I'm losing my mind. Maybe something's wrong with me. And oftentimes when we encounter things that are otherworldly or not logical or seem to be very out of the ordinary, the first thing we can do is think that something's wrong with us. But I kind of let them keep happening. I accepted them as part of my new normal as it was, and kept seeing them. It just so happened that the relationship kind of took a turn for the worst, and I had to support him in getting into rehab, and that put me in a really deep state of grief and some depression. And so I would go to bed and I would stay in bed, and every time I would turn over, I would see these numbers, 1111 or 111. That was the only time I would wake up. And at a certain point, about 4 weeks later, I got so angry and so frustrated that I just yelled out loud. I said, either make these numbers stop or tell me what they mean. And in that moment, I got all the flashes of the things that I would be doing, such as the radio show and the magazine and all of these kinds of things. But what I heard was, do this now, you will heal and others will heal. And it was in my own voice. But as you just said, you know, at the time I thought, okay, well, that's my voice talking to me. I never really considered that that was an angel actually talking to me. And so I think that that's very important to bring up, that so often we will hear it in our own voices or we will hear it in another voice, and that we can't discount that we are interconnected with this world and the other world that is beyond this world in a way that's going to support us. And once that happened and I was able to get out of bed and start some of these things, even though I had no clue what I was doing. I've never had a clue as to what I was doing. You know, it's about putting one foot in front of the other, having faith where there is nothing really to believe in that's tangible, and understanding that you are supported. And that's what I really think signs are. I think signs appear to really say the universe has your back, that you are fully supported, and to take notice of what you're thinking when your specific repetitive signs show up, because that's often a pointer. And that has led me not just to creating all of 1111 Media, but ultimately led to my first book, Conversations with the Universe, and now my seventh book called Signs, which really details how we can ask for these signs, how we can invite them in, how we can explore them, and how we cultivate a practice to let go of our minds, our identities, and our rigid thinking, to let something bigger than us enter our lives.
Well said. And this is something too you see in others with like 1111 Talk Radio, 579 episodes, 15 years. Bravo. You've seen the same patterns, or we'll just call it possibilities, expansion for individuals out there. And let's back up. You've been a super inner, brave, peaceful, fearless warrior because you, without knowing where the path necessarily would lead, you took it one step at a time, and you've done an incredible job. Still in the works, still moving up the curve. Consciousness expansion, let's touch upon that for 1 second. I think New York Times authors, it doesn't have to be spirituality. We'll just talk consciousness, but it could be near-death experience, folks. And I think you're going to see this pattern or just situation happen through many different, like hostages being freed, or you've had your near-death experiences, you come back to a relationship, and because the other person hasn't gone through it with you in sync, there's now two different consciousnesses. They tend to and can go on separate paths. It doesn't always happen that way, but like a New York Times bestselling author, I heard some advice 20, 30 years ago when I was in New York City for 20 years. I'll never forget this. A New York Times bestselling author talked about how when his book or her book took off, the old crowd, the hometown crowd, couldn't relate. They only knew Fred or Sarah the way they used to know them. And so there was a separation, and there was no longer quite the same hanging out or connection. And so I think we'll find as you grow, a lot of things that can shift or leave you. A lot of expansion takes place. Not everybody can follow or relate to that, and their egos can sometimes doubly push you away. And it's not personal. This is just the way it works. As people grow and expand, things change. And I wanted to keep it simple, but you've seen a lot of this, and not necessarily just for yourself or your situations, but you've seen it in others. What could you tell us about that? And then what could you do to connect that concept back to one of your books, one of your shows? Tell us more.
You know, I think that's an important part that everyone needs to understand, is that as we delve into personal growth or spiritual expansion, we are shifting and changing, not only who we are internally and how we see the world, but also how we act in the world, the steps that we take, the new choices that we have. And the people around us, our partners, our family, our friends, that's going to cause some friction. It's going to rub them the wrong way a little bit because they're kind of used to you. We are pattern driven organisms, and we're used to things staying the same. Change is something that can ruffle our feathers. And so when they see you changing, they're going to think something's wrong. They're going to want that status quo to stay the same. And so you're going to start to see perhaps a little bit more in terms of arguments that take place, or people turning away, or some people walking out of your life. And that's not a bad thing. I find it's oftentimes a way to measure your own personal growth, because you'll see people move out and you'll see other people move in. And that can, those mirrors can kind of tell you where you are in terms of your own personal growth and expansion. It's hard sometimes when people leave your lives, but that doesn't mean they won't be back later. We have to respect people enough to be where they are and allow them the opportunity to grow in ways that they did not even think is possible. I think that part of personal growth is not caring what other people think, moving forward in a way that we really tap into our inner authority, our courage, our willingness to be more than who we've been. And when we do that, we start to open a lot of other doors. We start to attract opportunities. We start to meet people that we wouldn't have met before. And the mind starts to change as well. Our brain opens in ways that new synapses form. We have a broader lens that we can see from as we move through the world. And because of all of these things that took place, and slowly and steady, the people kind of disappeared out of my life, I saw that the mirrors that were appearing were not just mirrors of places that I could see in myself, but also places that I could reach for myself. And I think that ultimately our souls want to expand. They want to see how they can be the best that they can be. And we each have a specific mission that we were endowed with on this planet. I think that mine was to write. Mine was to delve deeply and experience. I've always said, you're not on a journey, you are the journey. You are experiencing itself. And you are not in the world, you are every piece and part of the world speaking back to you about you. A lot of my journey has been to prove to myself these things that were just knowings inside of me. I wanted to viscerally experience them. I wanted to integrate them. And most importantly, I wanted to discover my humanity. And that is probably the greatest gift we can give ourselves, is our humanity. And the signs and symbols were literally my personal growth path. Every time I would encounter anything, whether it was an angry grocery store clerk, whether it was an amazing individual that has this capacity to help others see angels, or whether it was a feather here or a rainbow there, or a word sprayed across a wall in graffiti. Each and every time I saw something, I would ask, where is that in me? And I would find the mirror of that. And then I would ask, what is it here to teach me about me? And I would look for the lesson and the teaching in that particular person, place, or thing. And what is it here to inspire to come through me? Meaning that every single encounter is here to inspire certain gifts and expressions through you that are not only going to bless you, but then are going to be the grace upon this world that will allow them to be anointed by your energy, your expression, your God being that you came to be here on this planet.
Beautiful insights. Thank you, Simran, for that. And everything is your instruction. I love how you said that. Okay, so just for the audience to plant the seed or allow for possibility, because our knowing can often preclude possibility, preclude our expansion. We don't realize what type of energy we're generating and so on. And that's just part of everyone's path to figure out the difference between here and being in the heart, the fun stuff. I did want to mention angel feathers. It doesn't have to be a physical feather. I mean, it should be. Ask for physical feathers, get an eagle feather, get a this and that feather. But I mean, it could be you're getting a massage, a feather on your clothes. That's what one person has said recently in the last year. But you can get electronic feathers. And by that, I mean angel light. So ask for it. If you're sitting watching this show, watch Simran. If you need a tip, look at the nose, go to the forehead, see her aura as she's talking. But out of the corner of your eye, if you can ask angels to allow for this, you'll see the most beautiful feather. It might be multicolored, impossible, unless it's a Costa Rican bird. Ask for that feather to come in. Now, I wanted to mention, you mentioned new people coming in. I would love for you to mention abstractly with no names, just the beauty of some of the new people coming in who are, we'll just call it a higher vibration, a wavelength expansion, and how much fun that is. Because this isn't all sour grapes or anything like that. Not that you've sounded that way at all. But to the person out there who's like, oh my God, I'm afraid of change. I wouldn't want to lose half my friends and get new friends. That's a lot. Definitely cover that at some point for us when it's appropriate. And then I wanted to mention like Mother Teresa, or just first, angels exist, trust that it's so. I took photos of angels. I help people see them. Just if you can get over that and allow for it, you're probably watching this and thinking, well, I totally believe in that. But Mother Teresa said a few years ago, from the other side, reconciled if you're not a fan of hers, but she's amazing, great sense of humor. She said, compassion is not dependent on any one person's happiness. And she also said, compassion is like a deep breath for many. And by that, she just means we're all moving a little fast up here. So the closest thing we're going to get to like compassion, one with the universe, kumbaya, is a breath, because that if you take a conscious deep breath to feel you're pulling out of thinking and you're getting to your heart, but then you're like, oh, I'm late for my appointment, iPhone, job, task, clean the garage. Okay, Simran, talk to us about compassion, how beautiful and unique everyone's life path is. Sure, you got to surrender some stuff just to get to here. But trust me, all the worry, thinking, fear, some of that does come back. You're never ditching thinking all the way. What's your definition of compassion? There's no one right answer, but everyone's got one. What's your definition of compassion? And then give us some inspiration about what's ahead as a person goes through their transformation, awakening, change, or just ebbs and flow of life.
I think compassion is the capacity that we touch when we are willing to be in our own bodies, when we're really willing to experience life in all its forms. And that means the very dense all the way to the highest light that would be the orbs and the angels and all of those kinds of things. I believe that essence is already in our body. The divine already exists in this sacred temple. I think that we are not. We have left our bodies. We have kind of let our spirits go up and out and need to kind of pull them back in. And when we're willing to face our lives fully, when we're willing to feel every feeling and experience it and let it dissolve from our bodies, then we definitely bring our spirit back into the body. We bring it back into a way that we feel every tingle and every God bump and every wisp that comes past our skin that might be that angel kissing us on the cheek. We will be able to experience all of those things while also understanding what it means to be human. I don't look at emotions as negative or positive. I don't look at them as, oh, we need to get away from these because they're dense and we need to stay up here in the positive life. I think that that can often be escapism for a lot of people. I believe that emotions are like crayons. They're like our crayon box. And the lighter emotions, they tend to be the ones on the front row, the ones that we want to feel, the ones that we want to step into. And then there's this back row of colors that's very dark and very dense. But it is the combination of those that give us the texture of life, that create the true beauty of the portrait of life that we have. And our willingness to feel all of our crayons in our crayon box is how we actually connect to compassion. Only when we know anger and jealousy and hatred and all of those dense places can we understand why someone would commit certain acts or why they would be the way they are. And then we can bring about those places of joy and happiness and gratitude and kindness and gentleness. And then all of a sudden we shower that person and ourselves with those energies so that we create more compassion between us. And that type of shift inside of us is what ripples out into the world and creates the change. there's a lot of hard stuff happening in the world today, whether we look at the war in Ukraine, whether we look at the past few years dealing with COVID, whether we look around our neighborhoods and see a child or a single mother or an exhausted man trying to make it for his family. These are tough things. They're part of the human experience, but our willingness to be present to the mirror that they are for us and tap into the feeling that we are projecting onto them by looking at them, we then dissolve that energy and instead can spread love to that person, can hold the space for that person, can be the one that is absolute presence. And when you talk about Mother Teresa, that is what she was. That was the energy that she carried. She knew that suffering existed. She was around it all of the time, but she could hold it. She could hold it with love and compassion and peace. She could hold it with fierce advocacy and the highest state of love that is possible, that does rage and say, this is unjust, we have to correct it. But yet the tenderness of caressing a child that is hurt and crying. And when we allow ourselves to feel this full range of polarity, we have opened to our humanity. And when we open to our humanity, then we have the compassion to open to the humanity of other people and understand why they've hardened their hearts, or why they've shut down, or why they've had to escape into opioids. We start to realize why people end up homeless, or why marriages end up broken. And then we become these healers, these walking angels, these individuals that are able to hold the space of love and light despite the duality in the world. And that is non-duality.
And we were talking before the show. I took 25 years to learn the phrase non-duality. And I was sitting, I mean, I'm in New York, I'm working a Wall Street job, and I just write in a diary. How I did this, I have no idea. But I see the word non-duality and I write it down. And I've got no Buddhist professor or any instructor anywhere along the line. And so now flash forward, I'm going to say 20 years. I'm sitting in a Acura parking lot on a curb watching leaves swirl in the wind. But I'm reading Thich Nhat Hanh's book given to me by a best friend's wife, who's an amazing holistic type. And it's pieces every step. And the only non-sentence in the whole book is blah, 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 not to, non-duality, period. And then his only non-sentence in the whole book was not to, period. And I'm like, I waited 27 years to get that definition, but it makes sense. And so back to what you were saying, it was another, again, beautiful what you said. Feel what you feel, don't judge. And love is what brings us the colors of life. Those are the two that I got when you were talking, because it was so impactful. Also, everyone has an angel crew. We would love to see change in the world. We'd love to see change in others. And a guest this season, this year on the show here, Angels, Positivity, and Love, said the most amazing thing. I've never heard this expressed anywhere. And there are so many great experts. Bookshelf behind me, Hay House, Sounds True, all over the place, Esalen, Omega Institute, Kripalu, if I said it correctly, Alternatives UK in England, I got to mention them. She said, when you pray for others, put words through the heart, send love, whatever you want to call it, positivity, send it to the angel team of the person. They know what to do with it. If you're not 100% sure where you're at, you're not vibing out, then maybe just send it to the crew, send it to the angels to distribute. And I thought, oh my God, I've never heard anybody put it that way. So let's back up. What's practical advice? We've got so many audience members, whether it's 10 years from now, next week, watching this. What can a person going through their day? How can they slow down? How can they pick up on the signs? But also, how can they maybe take a breath? Do you have any tips on a practical level that before they get to their car? Thich Nhat Hanh, pieces every step. He mentions stuff like this, stop signs, traffic lights, but washing dishes in the kitchen, how to make it actually fun. Good luck with that. So my microphone's over here. Simran, what have you got for us for something practical, tactical, fun, something that can get us to here and we didn't even know it?
I'd like to first start with discussing a little bit about prayer and what you brought up around prayer. And what I've learned in my own life is that a lot of people pray for something. They look at someone or something and they see it in its deficiency rather than its efficiency. And they begin to pray around the deficiency. And what I don't think people realize is when you are seeing a person, place, or thing in that light, you are really empowering it to stay in that same place. if you're trying to pray for it to change. And so if you are going to pray, I fully agree, pray to their angel team. And second, I would say see every person, place, or thing in the highest expression that it is. To release your worry, to release any thoughts of any negativity or deficiency that exists, and hold it in the health and the abundance and the wealth and the prosperity and the expansion and the creative capacity that they exist as in truth. That is the true prayer that will actually work and that will actually get someone or somewhere, something in a different place. And that also allows you, instead of becoming self-centered, you'll become centered in self. Because we don't realize that when we are trying so hard to pray for our children or our parents or our spouse or our job or something else outside of us, we're really doing it from a very self-centered place. We're doing it to try to have control. We're doing it to try to feel good enough, to feel worthy, to feel like we've been a part of something as a sense of greater value for ourselves. And we're also doing it to distract from what we really are and who we really are and what we really need. And so instead, see everyone already in their divine capacity, and then center back into yourself and really create the highest being that you can. And how to do that? Deep breaths are definitely a huge practice that I would suggest. Constant, continual deep breaths. Many people, when they breathe, they either breathe here or they breathe here. They never actually breathe further down. And I would say not only to get it into the heart, not only to breathe into the gut, but take your breath all the way down to your big toe. Like really get your breath fully in your body, very slowly breathing it back out, and you will start to become more embodied. The second practice that I highly recommend is to walk. Walk, walk, walk. Every time you have a challenge, go walk. Every time you need inspiration, go walk. Don't put on a headset. Don't do anything. Be with yourself. Breathe in the air. Be out in nature and just walk. It is the best way to return to yourself.
Oh, again, incredible. Okay. So when you do go out, you're going to have the mind kick in. You go on the walk. What can you use as a mantra or just a phrase to, we'll say, ground yourself in the body, remind yourself that there are no limits? What can we play over and over again up here to kind of tie up the psyche, occupy us, but reinforce love, the universe, connecting with all that is, compassion for all is life. That was something I forgot to say earlier when you were talking about compassion. But what can we do with the mind a little bit? Focus on the breath, feel the big toe as we're walking or as we're sitting still taking the breath. Could you tackle one last little bit of, for the person out there who's like, that's a lot, but yeah, I'll take the walks. How can they shut down up here, focus on nature? What's your advice?
I would say focus on the breath, but if your mind is one that wanders, I would actually say to say your name, not your nickname, but to say your real name, your full name, the name that you were given upon birth. We don't realize that our names are actually signs as well. They all have certain meanings. And if you look at any name, it is connected to light or God or the divine, or in some way will have a really high type of vibration to it. And repeating your own name is calling yourself back. In truth, we are all God on legs. We are all the divine. We are all sparks of that great divine presence. And all coming together, we make up that full presence. Even the angels are part of that presence. But it is only by remembering ourselves do we actually get there. So if you don't have a specific word like love or peace or whatever that word is that you want to just constantly say on your walk, then say your name and let yourself be reminded of the power of that name that was given to you on birth, because you were the divine aha moment that was brought into form. And it is through you that the divine sees, hears, and experiences life. And by saying your name, you will start to grow in what you want to experience yourself as the divine walking on this planet.
Oh, again, just you're knocking it out of the park again and again and again. Hank Aaron. Okay. Angels, let's take the same exact sort of question, but now getting out of just us, not versus us, but empowering us and saying our name. How can I turn to an angel? And who's your favorite angel? A lot of people out there would say Michael or Gabriel or Raphael or Ariel or somebody. But how do you recommend grabbing an angel? They're always available. How do you recommend bringing them in to assist on this? Because there's no limits and you can get help on anything. But talk to us about that aspect of this. So I'm about to go for a walk. I'm about to do my breathing exercises. How can I ask the universe? How can I ask for angels to help get me here, stay here, pay attention and focus?
I think that we've been kind of conditioned into believing in everything outside of us. And so we project everything outside or far and wide. And whether that is angels or God or whatever you want to call that big power, my practice has always been not to talk to it out there, but to talk to it in here, because they all exist inside of me. What if there's really no one here, just you and God? What if you are the being and the actual universe is not outside of you, but is actually inside of this particular vessel? And so I've always been the type to call upon Archangel Michael. But when I do so, I call upon Archangel Michael as this overarching energy that my body lives within, but also as the energy inside of me that I can call forward. And so I think we have to understand that it's very easy to project our power out onto so many other things rather than being in partnership to the other aspects that we are as the sacred divine that is the oneness that we all exist within.
Oh, again, lovely. Okay, so I'm going to add angels come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They live within you. They're around you. There's folks who are like, I've got to picture them this way. That's fine. Do it with or without wings, balls of light, transdimensional, multidimensional. I think for years, I gave away service. I think 8 years, a few thousand folks, but it's how I learned. And I would put in, if I'm a taxi cab driver, I would get a tip. And the tip would be snuck into the questions. And back in the day, I used to go over the questions, the answers. I don't see the questions. I don't see the answers. You do your own listening. But what does Mike do for people has been answered like 700 times. And one of them was he transdimensionally channels or transdimensional channeling for a multidimensional experience. And this touches in on what you're talking about. Angels live within you. They're around you. They're still learning, but from our perspective, they're pretty close to, I hate the word perfect or anything like that. They're pure love. They're light. They're here to help. You've got to get out of your own way to just be like, okay, I could use a great cup of coffee. Where am I going to the diner today? It doesn't have to be which leg we're going to cut off. Okay. Or the doctor and the whole high emergency, use them. You're going to use them for the big stuff, but use them for the little stuff. What are we making for dinner next Tuesday? Where are we going on for vacation? I'm very lighthearted about this. I think that's the number one question of all time, but don't leave it one dimensional. Ask which hotel to stay at. I once had a person who asked the tour guide they should be looking up. It was John in Hawaii. And I was like, please let me know who that John was, just for my future own purposes. I never heard back on that one. Is it okay to bring up an angel photo of Michael right now? I'll blow a little sage first. And this is something that on the show we do. We did it before the show. You've done it with me before. Audience members just have to drop to their heart. If they want to put their hand on the heart, there's no right one way, wrong way. I only have one bit of structure, and that's just ask angels to make it nice. Specifically, because I know people like details. And I forget everything, but here it is. Angels, get me out of my head, into my heart, make this nice. Amen, rock and roll, thank you. If you're from India and you happen to be on that quadrant, Om Sai Ram, whichever way, rock and roll. Anything that is you setting your intent, being here, thumping 3 times if you want to make yourself laugh, but it's owning your authentic presence, your inner peaceful, fearless warrior, just like our guest Simran Singh out of South Carolina. 1111 Talk Radio, 1111 Magazine. Could you mention your website now for us? Spell it out. Is it 1111?
1111mag.com or iamsimran.com. IAMSIMRAN.com.
Yeah, and that's 1111 MAG, mag like magazine.com, or I am Simran, SIMRAN, like running, ran. So I am Simran, SIMRAM.com.
Mhm.
Yes, awesome. I'm lighting some sage. Happens to be Juniper Ridge, the California company. I'm not sponsored, but you can find it on my website. It's at all the Whole Foods. It used to be $2 a bundle back in the day. It's probably up to 20 bucks. Totally quality, consistent. That's why I do it. Give yourself permission to let go. Ask angels to bring it through the screen. It's just energy. If you want to consider it plant medicine because you've got to grasp it that way, great. If you want to view it as love straight from angels or Native American chiefs or all the above, figures from India, all the different cultural influences. But let the sage smoke reach you. And if you want a little bit of healing, ask for it down your back. Some people taste it on their mouth. Allow, which is what we're getting at across the board on everything here. Get to your heart, allow, ask, and receive. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. Answers, hugs, signs, just like her new book that's come out. And here's again a little bit of sage smoke. Simran, can you just let the viewer know what's going on right now? Are you tasting it, feeling it? Is it now whooshing all over?
Oh yeah, I'm smelling it. I'm tasting it. It's extraordinary. It is so beautiful.
Good. Well, it's always fun. If you could put a comment, like, send a note to Simran saying thank you. Always good to get feedback. I know on other shows and stuff, audience members all over the world, and this could be years in the future. There's no time and space. If you have to play it over again, if you have to go take your walk, do your breathing exercise, watch comedy, listen to high vibration music, whatever that is, before I burn holes in my shorts. Hold on. Okay, so I've stubbed that out. And what I'll do is I got lucky with the camera. Back in the day, I was in a panic. I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm feeling. I'm grabbing intuitive people who half of them were my friends. I didn't even know they were intuitive. I was still freaked out. But I've eventually calmed down. I take a long time to calm down on this stuff. But if you're the Woodstock era or just culturally, you've got that background, family members, you've got a belief system, a cultural system, a value system that gives you a little bit of leeway, then none of this is that big of a deal. It's just more love. It's more feeling. It's more experiencing and then not getting caught up in the eddies of life, going with the flow because you have that unique life path. And Simran's going to tell us more about this. It's like that Dr. Seuss book that's overgiven for graduations all over probably the world, but America. Oh, the places you'll go. But it's very true. The second you get out of your own way, watch what happens. So I'm enthusiasm. I'm going to park it for a second. I am going to bring a photo of Archangel Michael up. And anybody who wants to put a hand out and feel the vibration, Simran, if you feel comfortable doing it, yep, fingertips, palm, but as she says, big toe. I have had people get sparkles on their big toe up and down their back. If you could ask any question you want, get an answer, get a hug, it's private for you, but then ask something for the audience, what you're hearing from Michael to relate that's right in line with everything you've been saying. And got it?
How can I love more? And how can I let go of what is unloving?
Beautiful. One more photo, we'll get back to conversing. Four archangels. Michael's in there, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. I just couldn't pass up since we're doing it. And I'm seeing a ball of light by me, so we're on track. Just anything people want to ask, listen. And for the person out there, it may be your own voice, your own whisper back to you. What do you think half your good intuition is? As Simran would remind you, it's probably angels and other beautiful guides helping you out, but not freaking you out. If it was their voices, you'd probably run for the hills like I've done. I've even run out of my house before, but that's like 10 years ago. And if you're in the middle of a golf tournament, you're a golf player, and your Aunt Martha, who's passed over and loves you very much, you love her. She's your favorite person on earth. If she said, hit it big in the middle of your golf tourney swing, you'd probably shank the ball because you'd be like, whoa, Aunt Martha, what are you doing here? It's better it's your own voice. So relax about it. But the second you let go, you might hear a high, peppy voice. Here's four archangels: Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. Simran, what are you getting for us one more time, and then we'll go back to the usual conversation.
Get out of your minds. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I'd love for you to share too, because you always bring up jokes and lift people up into humor and all of those kinds of things. And one of the insights that I got when I wrote my first book, Conversations with the Universe, was around the seven senses. And we think about the six senses, right? And the sixth sense of intuition, but we're never taught about the seventh sense. And the seventh sense is the sense of humor. And it has a dual definition because humor is also what we eliminate. It is the way we eliminate bile and that kind of thing. That is also called humor. And so we can also eliminate that way, which means we're getting rid of the toxicity, but there's a higher vibration, which is actual humor, which is the laughter, which is the light, which is the lifting up of oneself into the vibrations and the frequency of that are so important in terms of connecting to essence, connecting to angels, connecting to the vibration that really does cause the shifts and the changes in our experiences. And you're so good at that, Michael. So I'd love for you to
And I've got to say it,
let our people laugh a little bit.
publicly, wherever this is airing, Simran is absolutely the best judge of character. So we've got to acknowledge that right
Yes.
now. Thank you for the compliment. Okay, so laughter is love. Mother Teresa said that. I love it. And when we laugh, when we love, when we connect to our soul, and I'm borrowing nothing that I've said that's sophisticated in any way came from me. It's actually angels, Audrey Hepburn, Mother Teresa. But Audrey Hepburn said, when you connect to your higher self, you shine through your eyes. Angels said that too. And I had to mention, this is touching on a lot of cultural, philosophical, self-help, spiritual authors. Esther Hicks, she talks about pivoting. Buddhists talk about being able to drop one task and engage another, pivoting on a dime, so to speak, or turning on a dime. And it's not being attached to a linear thought chain that isn't the highest intent, your heart, highest vibration. And so I had to mention, it's being able to see possibility even in, we'll say, darkness, but being able to see always an outcome that gets you back to the greater consciousness global slipstream that your heart knows backwards. If you want to think sports, your heart is already wearing I got to do a New England, USA, NFL, New England Patriots jersey for the heart, or the Jets, or the Dolphins, whatever your team is. If we're talking Manchester United, soccer, fine, football, cricket, it doesn't matter. Your heart already is fully plugged in. That's why when you do art, yoga, sing, just make a beautiful meal for a group of people who love you. You love them. You're sharing energy, and they know what the meal's about. They're waiting for it. And you're actually enjoying the most minute task. It's the little things in life, the charms of life. I'm going to borrow from the 1940 Lucky Partners movie with Ginger Rogers, Ron Coleman, the #1 Hollywood director at the time, who did All Quiet on the Western Front, Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra, the original. That is the most hidden gem of guardian angel movies, but the guardian angel in it, the British actor who's second highest paid in Hollywood, Ginger Rogers, #1, he said, it's all the little charms in life that is what makes up our journey truly. And I think you'll figure that out on your last breath. It's all the little moments of loving. Love more, allow more. Mother Teresa would tell us that. Simran would definitely tell us that. And I'm just reiterating what others have said. So thank you for getting me to talk about that. What would you like to share next? Either book related, show related. You could tell us who some of your favorite guests are. Share what we can do to further expand in our heart as we're on our journey. Are there other books, other authors, movies? Go in any direction you want here and tell us more.
What I'd love to do is have people hear a little bit about you in terms of how does a Wall Street guy end up talking about angels and experiencing them, because I think there are a lot of people out there that feel like and I remember being this way myself in the early part of my personal growth and spiritual journey. I didn't get the messages. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I didn't have all these supposed gifts that everyone else had. I took a very ordinary path by using life. And I believe that anyone can reach enlightenment simply by using their own life as the guide to really living their life and engaging in the power, not just of evolution, but involution. And that's what I talk about in my new trilogy of Living, Being, and Knowing. It's a really detailed, soulful set of manuals that provide the instructions for how to encounter any and everything in life and move to a higher octave, no matter what that is. But they are a set of guides that the soul would have given you in order to really understand how to navigate this dual world and understand the purposes for the different things that we encounter. And so often there are individuals that are in one walk of life, such as you were in Wall Street, and then all of a sudden they start to have these experiences and end up in a different walk of life. And so I'd love for you to share, that breadth of experience so that individuals understand that, because I think oftentimes people stay in the closet about a lot of things, or they don't want to talk about it because they think they're going to think I'm crazy, or I think I'm crazy, and it's important for us to hear these stories. And I'm especially grateful that it's coming through a male, because I think there's so many men that oftentimes have such strong intuitive capacities, but they don't allow that to be verbalized or tapped into as greatly because it's not considered the norm or the cultural way of doing things for men. So I love that you're the example of this, and I want to hear a little bit of your story.
Sure. Well, I turned 55 a week ago, Friday, February 24th. So I might be a fellow Piscean or Pisces person. I've had an interesting path. I mean, no complaints, but it's been very unusual. I mean, everyone's got a unique life path, but my dad passed in 1970 when I was 2. Didn't know him, have more than maybe one memory, if at that. Navy fighter pilot type, died off the coast of Italy, Naples, in an F-4 Phantom fighter jet crash. He wasn't the pilot. He was in the Black Aces off the carrier Roosevelt. Nobody recovered. They put him in Arlington in 1998. 28 years later, it took Arlington 7 months to vet it. Front page of the Washington Post above the fold. They couldn't get the jets. They put his carriage, the caisson, with the flag inside it, above the fold, Washington Post. 3 airports closed. Now, I was sitting receiving the flag in my mom's seat because she had passed when I turned 23. So both of them passed, but hundreds of people have met them.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Sr., same name, and Barb, who, again, people listen to them. They talk to them. If I'm at a Target, a Walmart, they can see them, but usually you got to have it not a football field away, but enough distance. Same thing for your angels or a relative. So message to folks, the other side is a lot less distant than you think. It's exactly what Simran was saying earlier. It's all in you and within you. You're never alone. You're always heard. So talk, talk, talk. If you want to listen, take the chance. It's Winnie the Pooh. Everyone talks to animals. No one listens. And the quote keeps going with, that's the problem. Now, we all talk to our dogs. Some people absolutely listen to their dogs. I like to flip everything, whether it's humor, laughter, or just shifting perspective, like Wayne Dyer talked about. When you change the way you look at a situation, a person, the things you look at change. So instead of everyone talks to animals, no one listens, that's the problem, that's the opportunity for growth. And whether we're talking all the other males out there, everyone has room for growth and expansion. Knowing can preclude possibilities. So the second you go through some change, you hang your hat on your transformation. I think I met a person once who was enlightenment, but it was like sitting with the school principal. It was tough. There was no humor, no fun, no conversation. When we went to have tea, we didn't even have the tea. So slowing down is how I describe it. You're going to have thoughts. You're never going to ditch your thinking. I'm going to quote Angel. 7% less thinking is the golden transformation. That's it. 7% less a day, a week. I got a calculator out. I forgot the answer. Maybe 2.5 hours a day. Go do yoga, laugh, hug a tree, listen to your music, cha-cha-cha in the kitchen, hug people, say hi to strangers, find a way to in your own heart. Only you can be your finger painter like a 3rd grader. Try not to hit the walls, but if you got to do it, you can always paint the walls later. Enthusiasm, laughter, high vibe, I've found serves incredibly well because it dissolves. And then people who maybe aren't ready for it, but you don't want them in your life, they have to stay back. So it's great for boundaries and for staying on your course. Now, where I was going with all this was slowing down is incredibly important. The second you think you're done, slow down more. Learning never stops, expansion never stops. And so you see a lot of experts out there who do great jobs for us. A ton of experts have brought us the concept of awareness. What Simran was talking about earlier, the heart and all that goes with it. And then the thinking and the structure, the rigidity, and the opportunity for resilience when you go through a lot of those mountains or a lot of the valleys. But back to the life story. So my dad passed, my mom passed. A lot of sickness when I was young, strep carrier. I remember being in a lot of pain. I was the smallest kid ever. My babysitter from Hungary in Washington, D.C. thought I was going to blow away. He eats like a bird. Smallest kid at Phillips Academy, Andover, didn't grow till 11th grade. They grabbed me as a coxswain in an 8-person rowing shell for crew, because I only weighed 90 pounds. So split it by 8 rowers. I mean, we never lost a race till interscholastics, and then we came in second. They don't tell you that they toss you in to the water to celebrate. They toss the little guy into the water when you win. So that's not part of the let's sign you up on the team. So look, I went through all this stuff, but I felt like I was going through life backwards. I mean, I look back and I'm like, I don't even understand how I got through this, got through that. A year in Paris, Middlebury, the Wall Street job. I looked super young. Every client who met me face to face, like, never talked to me again. So when I was 24, I looked like I was 14. When I was 30, I looked like I was 20. I'm 55 now. Maybe I finally am starting to look my age, hopefully getting gray. And in my 20s, I was like, oh, the 30s are going to be even more fun. 30s, I was like, oh my God, the 40s have got to be more fun, and so on. So it started, though, with a layoff. I had done public relations after Wall Street for 18 years, and a lot of accounts, a lot of venture capitalists, lawyers, and so on. I started my own firm. The Lehman Brothers crisis came along. I had gone into law firms and been their public relations guy. I was at a $1 billion law firm. Lehman Brothers came along. I was in a 3rd round of stealth layoffs. 79 of us got laid off with an hour's notice. I bought a home in Austin, Texas. I'm the only one who did the Toyota jump for joy without doing the jump in front of people to be rude. I kept it on the lowdown, quiet. I moved to Austin, no game plan, but stuff started to happen. I had a sequence of external events that we talked about that can be jarring. It doesn't have to be the car wreck, near-death experience, divorce, and so on, but the equivalent that popped me out of my thinking long enough to be like, oh, there's something called thinking, and I am not my thoughts. And that's when I started seeing, hearing, feeling. And I did the good old American thing. I grabbed one of those Sure Shot cameras, started blasting away. I mean, I was taking hundreds of photos in a day. I got thousands of photos of angels, fairies. They're beautiful, fun. I used to hand the camera to folks. And it was I need to hear stuff 100 times before I'm like, okay, maybe that's the way it is. I'm so slow. It's hilarious. But I'm a really fast teacher because I've gone through that. So try to flip the pancake, try to switch your perspective on anything or anyone or whatever situation you think you're in. It's building an incredible foundation for you, for your resiliency, for your adventurous spirit, for the fun, excitement that is your unique life path ahead. Life is not a routine. It's meant to be lived. And I have to go on a complete tangent. Asking about homelessness once, an angel said, what an adventure. I'm not kidding. There's always a higher vibe and a higher perspective wherever you're at. And an angel or Simran here can put a definition to anything. One last thing, I've been asking definitions of compassion, which we did earlier on the show. And angels have been answering that forever. No 2 answers have ever been the same, whether it's Sai Baba, Mother Teresa, Buddha, Mary, whoever. It's so beautiful how you can find unique words and unique vibrations to describe the same concept. Our words, our thinking can just never get there. So park it, don't try so hard. And even this, I'll end it with this. Yoda says, always try with Star Wars and the Force. Archangel Gabriel once said, oh no, Yoda says no try. Archangel Gabriel said, always try. They're both correct. It's not about the words, and it's that duality thing, depending on which way you take it. But the bottom message, or the bottom line message here, is be in your heart. Have more fun, allow more, love more, and I'll add, ask more.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. That's awesome. I think that's so valuable because we all have our bumps along the way, and whether we're released to our destiny by a company shutting down or being fired, or whether we are, catapulted forward because of a divorce or some other reason for a move, it's all part of a plan to release the conditioning that brought us to that point in the first place. And I think that there's so much to explore inside of us. There really is this huge universe to discover how we've been conditioned and what we really believe, and start to discard all of those thoughts and let go of the mind that holds them. And I think for most people, to get to the place of realizing you're not your thoughts, sometimes that happens where people can get it and they move on with their life in that way. And then there are other cases where they realize it, but they still continue to live by those thoughts. And so in that way, when we can decondition and we start to realize that the thoughts that we think are not even ours to start with, they came from someone else. They came from our parents or from society or from our culture or from the news, that they never really were our thoughts in the first place. Then all of a sudden we open up a brand new landscape of who we are and what we have the capacity of being. I love that you talked about homeless people. I had this situation one time where a friend of mine who is an energy healer had gone to California, and she had called me after returning, and she was going on and on about all the homeless people and how she was so glad she was sent there because she felt like it was her mission to send energy to the homeless people so that it would support them. And after I got off the phone with her, I thought, something about that doesn't feel right. Like, why would we send energy to anybody? Like, it seems like it's something just didn't connect with me on that. And so I was writing, and what came out of the writing was that that area is so busy, that our world is so busy, constantly moving, whether it is 60,000 thoughts a minute going through our head, or the constant distraction of our minds and our bodies, or everyone on their phones, or just constantly being busy and never stopping long enough to even breathe. That what if the homeless people are actually just holding space? What if they're sitting there to try to calibrate and balance the energy of all the frenetic energy that's out in the world? Like, to think any of us are below another or need the help of another. We all have a purpose, we all have a place. And yes, what an adventure they are having too.
Another incredible insight from Simran Singh. Gotta love it. The concept that everything is perfect as it is right now, that you're receiving love, is something worth backing up on and taking a look at, because angels once said, and I think this is in my little Listening to Angels book, written by angels. I saw balls of light as I was typing. It's super simple, but if anybody thinks that I wrote it, thank you. It's awesome. And then 3-time bestseller Anita Morjani just wrote a nice book review about it, so that was cool. A quote out of the book. It's a 15-minute read. You can be happy now in this moment without a single reason in the world. There's a million ways to be stuck up here. There's a million ways to get into here, a smile, a laugh, and so on. And it reminds me of Geronimo, who I'd love to put a couple different photos up in a second. Unconditional Love Spirit Guide, who's action, dry wit, humor. If the first two chiefs, Dull Knife and Red Shirt, are proper, formal, yes, no, wisdom, and compassion, he's more like, yeah, nah, duh, you already know the answer. Like a drill sergeant meets a Zen master. So you can be happy now in this very moment with no reason, for no reason whatsoever. That defies all logic, all of our thinking, all of our structure, culturally, or from this country, this religion, this philosophy, this sports team. How can I be happy? And that will show you your own ego, allow you to tame your own ego. It doesn't have to be as far out as unconditional love, angels. Stop right there, take a look. Why aren't you smiling more and laughing more? What will you allow for? That's the rub. That's the crux. Are you living enough? Now, Geronimo also had another great quote. He's got lots, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus. Again, I have to hear stuff 100 times. So I was asking the other day, angels, Geronimo, my good manifester, and he just went like this. Sweet Jesus, Mike. Yes. Like, lost it. And I was laughing so hard. And then I think I got over the fence. Okay. Many questions, one answer. Geronimo said that, talking about this. And that, in a way, caps it. Very beautiful. No matter what you're asking, and this is going to sound fluffy, unicorn, rainbows, but love is the answer. Love is the way. Your heart is the way. You already know the answer, he would say, and kick you in the butt. If you're the painter and you haven't put your paintings in a gallery and it was meant to be, your cousins have been telling you for 5 years, you've been telling yourself for 7 years, I really should, I'll start next week. We do this all the time. Delay. He comes in and he's just like, let's go. What's holding you up? Take this step, call John and call Sarah in Seattle. Okay, so with your permission, can I bring an unconditional love spirit guide, Geronimo? I'll tell one quick 30-second story. When my dad died, the military sedan pulls back, 1970. My mom's crushed. She's 23, 24. You saw the photo. They broke the news, but a neighbor walks down in Virginia Beach, these 3 paintings, drawings by the Mad magazine guy, Alfred E. Newman. He drew The Boy. It's Jack Davis, passed away a few years ago in his 90s. He's got he's got 16,000 drawings. Some of them are in the University of Georgia Art Museum. But he did these beautiful paintings of the Chiefs. And that's what started it all for me 10 or 11 years ago in Austin, in my home. I'm having a dinner party. I tried to play psychic. I had no boundaries left, no energy. I wanted to still have the dinner party. I knew this woman was coming and would ask me a question, but out of nowhere, and I hadn't met angels, hadn't met Plato, hadn't taken any photos, hadn't done any of that stuff. A voice said, just send her up to one of the 4 bedrooms, have her talk to the chiefs on the wall, get her answers, punt. Don't spend your own energy anymore. I did it in front of everybody and nobody questioned it at the table. She's gone. She found the room. She sees the drawings. She talks to the chiefs, gets her answers. She's gone for 45 minutes, comes back all sparkly eyed. She goes, those guys are great. Now, I haven't met them, but they've been over my bed in the 70s, 80s as a kid, in my office as an adult. And I'm like, rabbit hole time. I need to meet these guys. And that's what launched the whole journey. Here's older Geronimo. And if you would, Simran, he is so incredible with his eyes. He's usually a tiger, but here, a kitty, his heart is big. He's such a healer. What does he have for all of us that's just totally to the point, like a lightning bolt hitting?
Just be still.
Beautiful. And then younger Geronimo, unconditional love, tough as nails, but great for advising on anything business, life, relationships, day to day.
Do the work.
I love it. And now one extra exercise to get out of our own way, because we think we know what we're doing, but there's always more, even in the moment. Go ahead and ask for a smell, Native American smell, or Sedona wildflowers, but cedar, sweetgrass, sage, desert pineal, pine, sweetgrass. You get the tobacco. There's 50 of them. Ask for it, but let it be healing. Let it be that topic that came up for the audience member. But they're like, what about my dog? I just lost my dog 2 weeks ago, and they're back up here and they're feeling pain and suffering. Or it's the relationship or the 2 divorces back or the lost son or the whoever. Ask for that smell to come in and to take you to Calgon, Take Me Away, if it's the 80s commercial, back to your heart. So Simran, what are you getting for an amazing Native American smell at your end?
I believe I'm smelling tobacco.
Perfect. And unofficial tip, open the mouth a little, 1 millimeter for folks. If they feel like they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, put your hand out, feel the energy off the photo through 2 screens, walk around first, hug your dog, do something funny that if you were at a supermarket and trying to do this, which you can, you don't need a photo, ask if they're there. Do a chubby checker, Elvis Presley, anything, shake your hips. And if people start laughing 20 feet away because they're like, what are you doing? Like you're in an acting class, you've been tasked with an assignment, a homework assignment to do something in public, trust me, that breaks your structure. You're out of here, you're into here, and you're wide open and ready to listen, ready to get love, maybe send it around, but being respectful the way Simran keeps touching upon. Ask the universe to spread the love, and that's through your presence. So instead of the usual, somebody said, I think 12 feet, you can go 60 feet out. Watch people, if you're in a small town, walking on one side of the street, people waving hi from the other side of the street. Just because you're in a phenomenal, you still may be thinking about paying the bills, but your heart is on fire. You might be up in your thought train. That's an incredible experience. And for Simran, somebody might run across the street and open a door for you. Cross the street, even stop in a car, jump out and open the door for you, get back in and say, I just wanted you to know you're so sparkly today. I had to open the door for you. I'm not kidding. Crazier things have happened. So
yeah. You
know,
I'd love to touch on one part, because I think that there's a lot of people that would love to get into their heart and be in that joy and be in that light and that place that you're talking about. And for some people, that's very easy because they grew up in environments that let them tap into what that is. But there are also a lot of people that have gone through difficult things, or that can't find that feeling, or are thinking that feeling but aren't actually integrating that feeling. And there is also value in the process of involution. I tell people we came to planet Earth to experience being human, and that means the full range of things. And I've recently released a trilogy of books, Living, Being, and Knowing, and it is about that involution. And so if you can't open your heart through love and laughter and all of those higher vibrational things, then the other place that the heart opens is heartbreak. It is grief. It is that type of emotion. And most spiritual teachers or most personal growth people will tell you to go positivize or go affirm or go get out of those emotions. And for the human identity, yes, I think that that is a direction that you can go to convince yourself that those things don't exist. But if you are really here for the work of the soul, then I would say you need to understand that there is a multidimensionality to you, that there's an identity of you that is living right now, that is conscious and unconscious, that is bumping up against life, that is experiencing the highs and the lows and the blessings in all ways, shapes, and forms that they show up in. And there's also a being part of you that ranges from very low vibration to very high vibration. But what we don't realize is all those layers of being are active all of the time. We can do our best and keep ourselves elevated to the highest aspect of being, which is ultimately what we're here to do, which is what, Michael, you're talking about. But there come these moments where you will find that you drop low, or you will find that something happens and it triggers a train of thoughts from the past, or that you will find you encounter someone and inside yourself you go back to some of those thoughts or feelings or unworthinesses and things that kind of bubble back up that you thought you had already healed. And those are the moments to go back and recognize that there are parts of you still active, that will always be active, that are just calling for love, and to also be present to those. And as we do that, we actually bring those different multidimensional layers into unison. And then your vibration and frequency actually not only get higher, but it's a sustainable higher. It's a way of fulfillment. And so when I talk about living, I'm talking about really getting to understand how you're living and all the ways that your living shows up in both the conscious and the unconscious. And when I talk about being, it's about ascending towards their highest state of being, but understanding that there's a shadow, there's an animal, there's a monster inside all of us. And we have to love and embrace all of those parts to bring them to neutrality so that we really can experience the highest state of ourselves.
You've touched on so much there. That was incredible. In 10, 11 years of doing this, a few thousand folks, I try not to know much because I find that my knowing usually limits me in some way. And yes, it can sound like a lot to say no limits is no limits. And, each moment can be shiny and so on. And it's back to feel what you feel, don't judge. But here's what I've learned if there's like one of three things over all this time. And I've gotten to witness a lot of incredible people who drop to their heart and allow for all, connect to all, call it love, unconditional love. Love is the fabric of the universe. Being more in the present moment, connecting to the present moment, the power of now, Eckhart Tolle. Where you put your focus is where you put your focus. And that is safe because it's that redundant thing or whatever. You can't take that one apart. But so you are just flowing energy all the time. If you could see your words, it's gloves that words are like gloves that you put on your energy to hug someone or slap someone, to hug and love yourself or to beat yourself up. I'm not worthy. So being aware of where you put yourself, that awareness, as Plato would say, awareness is empowering. That's, to me, the name of the game in life. It's a lot of learning. Yeah, you're going to get slugged a lot. You're going to do some self-slugging. You're going to fall down. Stuff's going to feel big and overwhelming, like you're in a storm with 100-foot waves lashing over the ship. Your ship might even sink. But there's usually a life raft. Angels are here to help at any point, so don't feel like it's too dire. So when ego pops up, and nothing that I've said is original here. I've borrowed from, either other people listening and they've got a great gem from angels or from my book or from me hearing. So I wish any of it was, I've got a few quotes somewhere. I'll have to remember one. Let ego serve as a reminder. I love that. Or darkness or a tough moment or anything. And how are you going to make a positive out of a negative? Good luck with that. And let ego serve as a reminder for what? Up to you. It's that, I don't know if people remember the Billy Crystal comedy, Jack Palance, Western, City Slickers. And there was that guy, I think Jack Palance, would hold up, life's all about that one thing. And the city guys from New York couldn't figure it out, or Chicago. But it's whatever you want that one thing to be. What's going to unlock you to get you here, to fire you up, get you on your journey, and to realize that everything is learning. And back to what you said, everything's your instruction. And I think that's probably Pema Chodron too, who tells us that. So details, always going to be details. That's what drama is all about. Rama, no drama. I used to say that. I think that was the cutest line ever. Just Rama, no drama, just Rama. That was it. So allow. When you can let go, let go. If you can remember to let go, when you let go. Now that goes back to remember to remember, if you can remember, when you remember, for what? Being here, taking a breath, smiling, not taking yourself or others too seriously. Trust me, we can take ourselves seriously. We're good at thinking in humans and structure and humanity. We can go serious for decades, maybe a whole lifetime. It might be 5 lifetimes for some. Back to one last thing. Positivity itself is abundance. I know we think it's externals, and I'm not saying don't ask for the better career or to put yourself out there or to do this or to want to move or to do all the things in life that we're meant to do. That's part of your unique life path. But try to remember that by being in your heart, that's how you're attracting. A lot of people like to say manifesting, law of attraction, all that. But positivity is abundance. So don't limit yourself in any way. You'd be surprised at what you're capable of when you're in your heart. And you don't even have to know what you're asking for, whether we're talking the externals, that place in Maui, that new job, the soulmate that you haven't met, the healing that you need for physical stuff. Sometimes you can only get the shakes to stop, but the Parkinson's won't go away. You signed up for certain stuff. It's written, like they would say in the Middle East, it's written. But there's other stuff you can get help with. Half the shakes can go away. If you don't ask, you don't get. It's like a raise, a date, maybe a vacation, something like that. So just ask more. And you don't even have to know what you're asking for. Do it before bed. Do it when you wake up. Just be like, hey, I don't even know what I'm asking for, but make it nice. Like you're at a restaurant, and that's basically what this is. I would argue that angels, the universe, a lot of loving figures from India, Native American chiefs, Mother Teresa, they own the restaurant. They're the maitre d', the servers. You happen to know the chef. That could be your guardian angel. You're given a platinum card, but it's fake. You don't have to pay the bill. You get your usual table and you just yell, make it nice. They start serving you courses that aren't even on the menu. Now, this is total positivity speaking, so take me with a grain of salt. But wouldn't it be nice to have a 13-course meal, no calories, the most delicious everything, and to invite your favorite, even if you don't know them? It could be celebs, singers, have them come in and join you and have the best conversation. So have your cake, eat it too, no calories. Distribute the cakes. Cakes equal smiles. And whatever we're talking about for your personal life, living, business model experience, you get to define it. You get to choose where you put yourself. You get to allow a certain amount of suffering and pain, but at some point you're going to burn through it and be like, you know what? I don't want to put myself there. You still might be there for 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks. It depends how big the situation externally is until you come back to what she talked about, the 7 senses. I hadn't heard it put that way, and I like it. Till you come back to your 7 senses and realize, holy cow, I really do like smiling and noticing the pointy bird and saying hi to my neighbor and hugging my dog and being licked by my dog, the little moments, the charms of life. So where are you going to put yourself? Entirely up to the listener, the viewer, the watcher, Simran, myself. And that's the beauty of living life as a human. You get to do it all anytime you choose, free will.
Yeah, that's why the 3rd book of the trilogy is called Knowing, the 7 Human Expressions of Grace. And we really do have to give ourselves the grace first. Like the human grace opens the gateway for divine grace. And those 7 expressions of grace, it starts with simplicity. Life is the first blessing, and it is encompassed in this illusion of time, which is the first illusion. And so the first grace has to be simplicity. And that simplicity is not just the external, which is very important, because as you begin your personal growth path, there's the simplicity of removing people in your life that are not going to lift you up and love you and keep you at a higher place. It is the simplicity of getting rid of all the clutter, the expenses, the things that really don't serve you, that are bogging you down. But it's also the inner simplicity, the simplicity of no longer tolerating negative thoughts or behaviors or ways of being that inhibit your greater expression. And so as you go through this ladder of consciousness and you cycle through each of the 7 across the 3 books, you begin to learn the grace of dispassion, and the grace of detachment, and the grace of rebirth, and all of these places that we actually have to give ourselves. And that's part of reclaiming our fulfillment, our inner authority. And it takes courage. It takes courage to say, I'm going to be aligned to my highest self. It takes courage to say, I'm willing to love myself gently and fiercely. And it takes courage to say, I'm going to be my own sacred advocate. And when we have that type of courageous tenacity, then all of a sudden we become the tiger in our lives, like the picture behind Michael. We become the flowering of the soul, like the picture behind Michael. We honor the veteran that we have been in our own lives, and all that we've been through, kind of like the flag behind, all the signs and symbols are right there on the screen behind you to say. And when we do the work to truly understand who we are and how we're living, being, and knowing, then we hit the jackpot, right? It's the 777. We hit it. We hit all the gold. And that's ultimately what our soul wants us to do. It's to find the gold within the dark, within the light, to get to a place where we can be neutral and compassionate about all of it, and celebrate our entire life journey, because we wanted an adventure and we get one.
I love it. So there's about 170 figures or so, angels, 100 plus, and then Mary, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Sai Baba, Sri Kaleshwar. The tiger, though, who's with the Divine Mother, that's what I use. And so action, 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 actual tiger. You can put your hand out and feel the fur, catch the smell of India, the lush jungle, catch the incense from a temple. What will you allow for? So I put that out there for people watching. They can look at the tiger, pure action, just hear a voice that's giving great advice. Think Geronimo, but furry. Absolutely amazing on your team. And so I'm not counting any of the angels there's a gajillion angels. Again, all shapes, sizes, and colors. You have a guardian angel that's like a Secret Service agent. A lot of angels come in for this life stage. You've got to learn this lesson. Others go. You can still do postcards. You can still chat with them anytime. Don't view it as a loss. There's nothing to gain or lose here at any level. So move past seeing the negative. We're talking just expansion. Think about it in any practical term. We were also talking earlier about something where this could seem like a big deal. How do you go for this type of mastery of the moment or your heart or the universe and all these big concepts? If you've ever made a good salad before, flipped a light switch, brushed your teeth, fallen asleep at night, taken a hot shower and enjoyed it, even sang a little bit of Italian opera, even if your voice isn't so good, but you gave it a shot. That's all this is. It's the micro moment. Let's do a micro that's a positive. A micro moment where you just let go and let it fly. It's driving safely when you were driving 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is, on the highway, and you kind of were checking out and you were like, oh, I better pay more attention. There's something about that little moment that you're all Olympic gold medalists, and that's the level of difficulty here. This isn't one of those crazy Olympic dives or Acapulco, the cliff divers. You got to do 19 moves before you hit the water and you hope you live. That's what it's going to feel like to go from here to here. Your ego has a million ways to talk you out of the journey. But I got to wait. I got to wait till next week. I'll start next week. My situation is, I got to save up the money to do this seminar or buy this expert guru's book. I want to go to India to the ashram. India can come to you. Angels can come to you. Native American chiefs can come to you. Have your own dialogue, get it started, even if it's one way. Take a chance, do your talking, start with your relatives, unconditional love relatives. Aunt Martha, start somewhere. Your pet that you lost 2 years ago is with you, your dog or cat. You can see those figures. First, maybe practice on your alive dog. You can chat 2 ways with your alive dog. You're already doing it. You're not going to give yourself credit as the big message. You're doing all the stuff we're talking about. All the times you're out of thinking and thinking it's no big deal. Even vacuuming if you happen to enjoy the task. Or planting bulbs in the spring in your garden, touching earth. Oof. Go sit under a tree. You can hear a tree. You can hear a stone. You can hear crystals. So my message is just allow. Don't get hung up on too many of the details. But the brain, and when you do start to take your steps, you're like, well, I got to have some steps to take. you're going to be right back to the details. So it's always try, no try, whether we're listening to Yoda or Archangel Gabriel. And yes, no details. Don't worry about the details. Let go of the details. But you got to have details to get like your steps done. So it's a total contradiction. What do we do? Oh my God, I give up right now. But
Life
not.
is paradox.
Yeah.
It's
So
all paradox.
can you tell us, give us some more flavor? You got in the car and this happened, or you took a shower and that happened, or you a certain song played 5 times in a row over the week. You even went into the coffee shop and it was playing there, and you just were dumbstruck, dumbfounded. You were like, okay, the universe is telling me to slow down. They're reaching out. They're saying, hey, pay attention. Give us something where you were like, oh my gosh, I wish I had like a team of scientists, PhDs, college grad, graduate assistants, something to do an analysis here, because I can't believe this is happening to me. Give us the best, something that we can all giggle about.
I think that what I want people to understand is that the extraordinary is in the ordinary, that there are things happening in their lives all of the time, whether they are traditional blessings or unorthodox blessings, and they're showing up as signs, that those particular experiences are actually leading and guiding them down a specific path. And it is the way that life or the universe or the divine communicates with them. And so whether you're having a pipe burst in your home, you can look at that negatively and say, okay, there's something really wrong here. Or you can realize that a pipe means, it can mean abundance for one person. It can mean emotion that needs to be expressed for another person. If your basement floods, it can mean that your foundation needs to feel a lot of the emotions that have to come forward. You could have a bird fly in your house and it could mean something different. What I have learned is that these signs and symbols don't show up just one at a time, that we're being spoken to all of the time. And if you connect the dots, if you connect the signs and symbols that show up, you'll find that you're being spoken to in paragraphs, in actual volumes. And as you move through time, you're going to discover your own dialect with the universe. And you're going to notice that there's a repetition beyond just the repetition of signs. There's something called echoes. And these echoes are going to take you back to moments where there's a continual refining of your mind, of your heart, of your experience, so that you keep aspiring to your highest and your best self. And so I could tell you loads and loads of
How about
stories
one?
of all kinds of experiences. I think the one that probably resonates with most people, it happens to be the 11s, because those are the types of things that a lot of people start seeing. They start to see 22 or 33 or 444 or 555. And that's the way that the universe gets our attention initially, to say that I'm conversing with you. But when I started my magazine and I had no idea of how to publish one, I decided to write down everything that I saw in my head from those visions. I contacted the people to do the interviews, and I had completed the entire Word doc, but I didn't know how to do any sort of graphics. And so once again, I asked the universe to help me. I said, look, if you want this magazine out there, you're going to have to bring a graphic designer to me. I'm not going to go look for it. And that particular night, a storm hit. And I happened to have my computer plugged into the wall instead of a surge protector. And so the computer crashed. And I came downstairs and it wouldn't turn on. Nothing would happen. And all this work that I had done was in that computer and it was gone. And that was devastating, that I've spent all this time now and I thought I had a mission and there was something I was supposed to do, and now it's just gone in an instant. And so I thought, well, let me find someone to see if there's any way to fix this computer. And so I opened the phone book and it happened to land right on a page where there was a huge ad for Computer Guru. Well, that's kind of comical in itself because I'm Indian. And of course, it would have to be a guru that I would have to go to. And so I called him up and he came over and he spent several hours. And finally, he said, this computer's had it. I'm not going to be able to fix it. There's nothing that you can do about it. You're going to have to get a new one. But there's one document I'm able to retrieve, and it happens to be called 1111. And so there it was, and so I thought, okay, well, we're still here. And so I went to write him his check, and he asked me what 1111 stood for, and I explained it. And he said, you know what? I have a dear friend that's going through a tough time. and she could use something inspirational right now. She happens to be a graphic designer and she's really good. Do you need a graphic designer? So oftentimes we see these things that we would call bad, our mind would say are negative or look at as challenges and obstacles or darkness. But in actuality, they are also some of these beautiful happenings that lead us down a different path or become the turning point in our life. And these sacred encounters, these signs, are actually there on your behalf. So that's the story that I'll share so that we can understand that signs can be beautiful and things that we want to see, like angels and birds and feathers and rainbows. And signs can also show up like a computer crash or a burst pipe or a fender bender, and they are just as good.
Again, total eloquence. Thank you, Simran. Simran Singh, absolutely incredible, out of South Carolina. 597 episodes on her 1111 talk radio, 15 years of recording. She's seen a lot, done a lot, still not done, doing a lot in the future and expanding, and serves as a reminder for us all, powerhouse for humanity, but she's living it at her own pace so that we can do the same thing. It's not a race. And slow and steady wins the race, not to try to rhyme or anything like that. So I had to share one here. We got invited out to Hawaii from the most, like, just an absolutely fantastic person, show host, been on our show, will be on our show again. She'll be on this show. And so we're out there for a week as guests of hers. We go into Wailea for a few days. And everyone's got intuition. They've got an ability to taste the air on anything. And you know it because you've got certain people who are just great at certain things and you trust their instincts. Could be through sports, cooking, we've talked about, real estate. You just know not even to bother going into the house because somebody's tasted the wind and said, it's not for us. You get a sixth sense about it. So we get out there and we're about to go snorkeling and Jenny's like, nah, not today. I went out for 2 minutes paying attention, keeping other snorkelers by me and staying close to the rocks. But a turtle snuck up on me and I'm like, wow, I'm a bodyboarder. I love the water. I've always lived on the East Coast oceans. And I'm like, wow, a turtle snuck up on me. So maybe I should get out. And I did. And so flash forward to we meet our hosts. And I did what I do. I help people meet, hear, feel, see full on angels, 2 people in a row. And then I proceeded to drop a COVID 2 hours later. I probably picked it up on an airplane 3 days earlier. But that was the rest of my Hawaii trip, like 8 days I'm out. Now, how do you make that a positive? Thank God for Paxlovid. And then angels had told me I'd be surfing a lot and I'd meet a really interesting one person. Now, that interesting person was a tall, sparkly-eyed doctor that I later in January wrote a handwritten thank you note for saving my life. But I'm in a bed the whole time. The one time I get up, I go to the balcony and I look out because I'm like, I want to see the ocean once. There's people on the beach pointing, and if you've ever seen a nuclear sub displacing water, that's what this giant shark is doing, chasing something, disappearing, and then it breaches. Great white, 18 feet. I can't even put my arms around this thing. I've never seen anything like it. I've surfed for 40 years, bodyboarded for 40 years. A little bit of wave knowledge. You know, I'm not necessarily great at it, but the point is I love the ocean. I love water. I love the feeling of letting go. I am like, holy cow. It took me a month and a half to process what I witnessed. Now, I would have been surfing a football field off to the right. There were e-foil people discussing how to stand up. They could only get up to their knees, those electronic things that you come out of the water in a hydrofoil, you're standing on like a surfboard. They were sitting in the exact spot where this took place the day before. And just to add extra flavor, I mean, it's basically Shark Week or Shark Month out there. Tigers everywhere. A tiger totally ate a person outside of our original hotel in Wailea. Literally, when you look at the photo of people gathered on the beach, a couple from Washington, poor her. So sorry to put it this way, but absolutely only a little piece of snorkel left and bathing suit, fully gone. It is Shark Week out there. Holy cow. Still love Hawaii. Had a great time. Recommend going. Don't be afraid of the water. But sharks. And that was the greatest thing ever, getting COVID, because I would have been bouncing around out there and who knows. So I wanted to mention, you never quite know. Your brain's going to tell you that you absolutely know and that negative is negative and you're in the blank. And no one's going to tell you differently. I've found you really can't tell anybody anything. And it's why I love my job, which is not to tell you anything, but to help you do your own listening, your own opening up, your own trusting your, I'll say 9 senses. I don't even know what the other 2 are, but Simran's books down the road may go up in numbers, the 11 senses or the 11 things to make sense of it all. So who knows where she goes with her numbers later. We've seen 1111 in the 7 series. So I wanted to ask Simran a few things here. If I threw out a couple of lines, either from figures, unconditional of figures, angels, do you mind giving us whatever comes to mind? Just beautiful, pithy quotes. I don't even know what pithy means, but I'm saying it. Okay. Archangel Raphael said, compassion is releasing fears and judgments.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is to attain our mastery, and that mastery comes from neutrality.
Beautiful. Okay. Jesus said, open eyes and open heart, his definition of compassion, but he also has said compassion for all is life. And that was with angels as well. So open eyes, open heart.
If you truly saw through the eyes of love, then there is not a single enemy or foe that you would ever encounter.
I think everything Simran has been saying today, oh my God. So please go back and rewatch, especially those moments where she's just knocking the ball out of the park, the leather off the ball. I know Mary said one time, love is in everything. Open your eyes to see love. So I think that just reiterates what you were saying. Okay, and I'm amazed that I can remember some of these lines. I usually forget everything. Okay, Mac, don't call her Mackenzie, an angel who's one of your surf guides. You can close your eyes and have India come to you, Middle East, go surfing in Hawaii. You don't need to know how to swim or surf. No sharks. It's safe when it's angels, lucid dreaming, dream time, Aboriginal, Indigenous, Australia. Shut your eyes, but our time doesn't equal their time. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes over there. You can get any answers that way. Max said, compassion is treating every moment with the awareness of a newborn baby.
Our ultimate essence is innocence. And if we could look at everything from innocence, then we bring nothing from the past and we project no future. We're just present.
Wow. And I'm going to mess up the next quote. It's from Siddha Katrapa. I can't get it right, but innocence is the way to realize non-duality, for here virtue and vice is one. Now, that's the only quote I actually know, and I sort of didn't get the whole thing, but that was from when I wrote down non-duality in 1992. So I've lived with that quote all the way to now. And it's like Siddha, whatever the word is that means something, Sidha or something, Katrapa, famous quote. I've put it up on my social media if anybody's like a geek and wants to go look at it at Twitter, drop down and you'll find it from a few years back. Okay.
Siddhi means God. It means to be in your state of God being. And innocence is the purest state of love. It is only knowing that you're that and nothing else.
And I just love the fact that we can put quotes out and we're getting just incredible vibration right back. Fun. Dull Knife, unconditional love, spirit guide, chief, wisdom. He said, compassion, being kind to yourself and letting go of past failures and accomplishments in the now.
I think the ultimate reason that we have incarnated is to discover what self-love is, and that's the one thing that we're here to master. If we master self-love, then we've mastered how to love the entire human race.
And I've been wanting to say this for like 5 of our back and forths, because love is a complete constant. It's in you and around you, just like angels. They're pure light. They're part of this giant vibration. If you just pause for a second and think about how a single thought, a single reaction, fear, worry, stress, doubt, all those iterations of lower consciousness, nothing wrong with it. We're going to do it. It's the other slipstream, though, globally. If you're worried about global warming, I'd worry more about global consciousness, but guess what? The worrying doesn't do anything. It adds to it. So be in your heart. Let go. Here's another quick one. Things don't need to be fixed. We're talking about mankind, big picture now. This is a Fiona, an angel, this is the most contentious thing I've heard out of 40,000 answers from angels in 11 years. Things don't need to be fixed. It isn't up to humans. Maybe we're talking global warming. Let go. Now, I'm not suggesting if you and I are opening a factory, we need 18 smokestacks that are just pouring it out, mercury and everything else. That's not the point of this. but there's a lot of different levels of consciousness, a lot of beings, and a much bigger picture going on. And she said, things don't need to be fixed. It isn't up to humans to let go. In other words, focus on generating your own love, and a lot of clarity will come. But Simran, I know you've got something to say here. What have you got for us?
Yeah, this is a perfect place for me to close out too. There are no mistakes. There are absolutely no mistakes. There is no one here that needs to be fixed, saved, or healed. There is nothing here that needs to be changed. All that is required is our presence and to look at the outer world as a mirror for the places within us and our consciousness that needs to shift into the purity of being, the essence of knowing, the highest state of living, and the expression of love, in love, of love, with love, and as love always.
Beautiful. I'm seeing like a sundae, and that was the cherry on top. Is there a last figure? Can I bring up Mother Teresa and Sai Baba, for example, and put their photos up, and we'll do just one last thing, and folks can join in, audience, whether this is 2 years in the future or now. Here's Mother Teresa's photo, a lot of laughter here, a lot of love. And you're going to do great no matter which way this goes. But if there's a mantra she can share about love or letting go or just remembering, that would be beautiful too.
You know, I'll share the mantra that I've always used, and it is in love, of love, with love, and as love. To continuously say that to yourself and to others in word, thought, and deed. In love, of love, with love, and as love.
I love it. At least get a hug from her and feel it. And that's for everybody out there as well. And then Sai Baba, here we go. From 100+ years ago. This is a photo that can wink, smile, move. There's no limits, but what will you allow for? Just like anything else in life, they're your steps. You take them or not. And I'll use 2 hands to keep it super steady and slow. But what does Sai Baba have for us all?
There can be no peace outside if there's a war within.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Simran Singh, thank you very much. Could you just remind us of some of the different books out there? You've got a bunch. The series, how it works, also the radio, the talk radio, the websites, stuff like that. If you could just lay it out again, if a person's just coming in halfway through, how can they find you? What would you recommend them starting with? Is it listening to maybe some of the shows to just get their feet wet and then dive into that book?
I'd say you can connect with me at iamsimran.com and 1111mag.com. My first book, Conversations with the Universe, and my latest book, Signs, Sacred Encounters with Pathways, Turning Points, and Divine Guideposts, teaches you about how to have your own conversation with the universe, how to encounter the signs and have them lead you not only forward, but discover your own personal growth and spiritual path in a way that will be adventurous and fun. And for those that want to dive really deeply into their soul expansion, my latest trilogy is Living the 7 Blessings of Human Experience, Being the 7 Illusions that Derail Personal Power, Purpose, and Peace, and Knowing the 7 Human Expressions of Grace. It is a set of books that are like no other. You are not going to read these cover to cover very quickly. I only want you to read 1 paragraph, maybe 2 a day. Allow them to be sacred oracles. They will always guide you, and you will exponentially advance your own soul expansion as well as your deepening into humanity. With everything that I do, whether it's 1111 or any of my books, take what resonates and leave the rest.
Oh, lovely. Her shows run on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Audible. I mean, you name it, Listen Notes, Castro, it goes on and on and on. So it doesn't take a lot to find it. Just put in 1111. Is it talk radio is probably one of the best keywords though that you can do. And Simran is Simran, Singh, Singh. She's fantastic. She's in South Carolina. She's being a beacon of light. A powerhouse is what I got ahead of time for humanity, but she's experiencing it, and she's doing it at her end in a way that keeps it real, creates the space so that we can have our space to breathe more, love more, allow more, drop into our heart. And I'll end it with this: appreciate more. So thank you very much, Simran Singh. You're walking the walk, talking the talk. You're doing a lot for all of us. I hope people enjoy her books, her show, and this show. This has been Angels, Positivity, and Love. We've had Simran Singh from South Carolina. I want to thank the audience as always. Please subscribe. Please like. You're doing us a huge service, allowing us to bring more guests in the future. And we hope you are enjoying the show. Thank you very much. Thank you, Simran.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here. Continue doing what you're doing.